Good morning, my friends. It is day 26 and it is Sunday, the Lord's Day, 26th of July, 2020. We're looking today at Psalm 67, as we always do on a Sunday. We look at a psalm if you read your little books. And today it's entitled, May Peoples Praise You. I want to read the first two verses and we're just going to concentrate on those this morning. And it says, May God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face shine on us, so that your ways may be known on earth, your salvation among the nations. Psalm 67, it appears to be an anonymous song of blessing and praise. Now, some of the other psalms are by David, by Moses, by others, but they're a collection of songs of praise. We can't really tell much about its background of the psalm, or who it was wrote it, the circumstances for writing it, or when it may have been even used within a church service or the temple service. It's possible that it points to a situation where God's people were being oppressed. Now, that happened quite often, and longing for a future day when the name of God would be lifted high again. Now, in this case, it would fit into everyone's situation at some time or other in your life, wouldn't it? But isn't it true that we are never without the need of God's blessing? We always need God's blessing. And as Christians, shouldn't we constantly long for our unbelieving neighbours and family and friends to give God the glory and the honour that he's due? Isn't that what we would want? In Matthew 5 and 16, we read of this light which God has shone upon us in saving us. And it says, let your light, Jesus said this, let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. These opening verses here from this psalm here, they echo the famous Aaronic blessing that we sing at baptisms. In Numbers 6:24-26, it says, May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Now, the slightly different language in Psalm 67 reflects a different context, more of a personal context. In Numbers, you see, it's the priest pronouncing a blessing upon the people. It's me whenever I'm pronouncing a blessing, as it were, upon the baby and the family. But in the psalm, it's personal, with people wanting God's blessing upon themselves. In Numbers, the blessing is for God's face to shine upon them, God's shining face being a sign of his favour towards them. But in the psalm, the people want God's favour to be obvious, evident, with or among them, probably in a practical, visible way, so that again, those neighbours, friends and family will see the work of the Lord first hand. Now, in 1 Peter 3 and 15, we read this, But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you for the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect. And in this way, God may be pleased to bring salvation to those that don't know him. You know, friends, here's the thing. When God shines his light upon us, it should be evident in our lives, should be evident in our faces, should be evident in everything that we do. Because we are the greatest advertisement for God that some people will ever get. And we are the only Bible that some folk will ever read. As God shines his light on us, let's reflect that off and on to other people. This psalm reminds us also that God doesn't just bless us for our own good. His face doesn't shine upon us or among us to simply make us feel better or so that we can know that God is pleased with us. As God's people, We are the means by which he demonstrates his love and power on earth. Now that's a big responsibility on us as believers. God holds us up as trophies of grace. Isn't that a great thing? Trophies of grace, declaring to his fallen world that he is able to save to the uttermost all who come to him. Look at what I've done in her life. Look at what I've done in his life. I can do the same thing for you. The Lord blesses us that his name might be made famous, that the whole earth might know of his salvation, and that all creation might recognize that it is to him and him alone that their praise and worship is due. Everything that we do should point people towards God. Someone has said that not only are we the pinnacle of God's creation, but we are the crowning act of God's work amongst his creation. The salvation bought for us in Jesus Christ was an act of God's mercy to an undeserving people. Wouldn't you agree with that? There is nothing that compares to the love of God for his people, and nothing that so graphically demonstrates God's love for us than the giving of Jesus Christ for our sin. Even though we often feel as if we fail God and that we are hopeless sinners, God looks upon us as glowing examples of his grace. You might not always feel that way, friends, but if God has done an act of grace in your heart, then ask him to put that onto your face, to make his face shine upon you, to glow for him. Our testimonies not of us, but of God's work in our lives. I pray that you won't bottle all of this thing up about God's blessings, but that you'll proclaim them, that you'll live them out, that the world might know the mighty works of the Lord, that he would be gracious and use our testimony to bring many to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something if someone gave their life over to Jesus because of something that they saw in your life and in my life? My friends, on this Lord's Day, the Lord bless you real good. And don't forget, 11:30, the drive-in service at Dunedin. You'd be most welcome and you'll be most safe being there.